friend, Julie here. I just wanted to say a quick hello and welcome to my little video series that I made, my simple watercolor holiday card making series that I put together for you. Now, just to let you know, this series includes 3 videos, and in each video, we tackle 2 sets of cards together. They're really easy, really simple, and really fun to do with kids and family members and friends and whoever you're hanging out with this weekend. Now, as you're getting really creative and having a super great time doing it, I just want you to consider my 2 memberships that I have available. So I have the Julie's Paint Party virtual membership, which is a whole painting membership where everybody gets a new video every week, new seasonal paintings that we tackle of all sorts of different painting levels. If there's one thing I've learned over the last couple years of hosting these parties is that honestly, the more you paint, the literal better you get. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner, mid-level, or advanced, you are going to find techniques and things that you didn't know before and just totally start killing it in the art department. So there are already 100+ videos waiting for you in the membership. If that sounds good, all you have to do is go to juliespaintparty.com/membership and find out all the details on that. My second membership I have is the Project Monster Kids Club. Where's Project Monster? I have my Project Monster doll right here. He's my main man, and I had to name the kids club after him because we tackle different projects every week. We do marker projects, watercolor painting, acrylic painting, colored pencil. We learn new art techniques like pointillism and abstract and texture and all these really great things. We meet live at least 1 or 2 times a month, and it just fills my heart so much to see these kids doing so amazing and tackling so many awesome projects, pushing them out of their comfort zone while allowing them to explore their own creativity. Sounds pretty great, right? So if that sounds like something that your kid might be interested in, please go to juliespaintparty.com/PMKC, that's short form for Project Monster Kids Club, and check out all the details and see if it might be something that you can give them for Christmas this year. Anyways, nonetheless, I don't care if you decide to do that. I just care that you're having a really good time, that you're getting creative and really finding that beautiful peacefulness that happens when we let go and have a little bit of fun with our friends and family. From my family to yours, have a wonderful holiday and enjoy this series that I put together for you. See you later. Happy painting. Hi everybody. Happy almost holidays and welcome to my Julie's Paint Party Project Monster Kids Club simple watercolor holiday card making series. It only took me 8 times to figure out how to say that. So I'm going to make a few videos where I'm going to bulk 2 cards in each video, and we are just going to have fun. This is for kids, for adults, for the whole family to just sit down, get a little creative, and make some really fun holiday cards for anybody you want. So I'm going to go through a short list of supplies that I use to create these really fun little holiday nuggets here. And yeah, I kept it really simple. So stay tuned and check this out. First things first, the supplies that we're going to use to create our cards are just a simple palette of watercolor paints. It could be really simple. You might just have those ones from the dollar store. That's perfect. You don't need this big palette of stuff. Even though I might use a few extra colors, it's just unnecessary. You absolutely don't need them. And just remember, we are also going to use some Crafters Acrylic or just plain old dollar store Craft Acrylic paint, wherever you might get it from. It's really simple paint. They're like $1.50 a bottle, super easy to use. You can actually use these for watercolors as well. So if you don't have a watercolor palette like this, feel free to grab some green, some blue, maybe a red or a pink or purple color, And if you put a little dauble on your palette and add some water in with it, you can get an awesome watercolor texture. So you don't need this particular array of watercolors to make this work. I'm also going to use a simple roller ballpoint pen. It's an extra fine pen with a nice little tip on it. We're just going to use this to draw a few little details on our cards. And as far as brushes are concerned, I have a couple different brushes. So I have my watercolor brushes, which are really soft and malleable. They're really easy to kind of swoosh around. So I love using these kind of wider, longer brushes for my watercolor paints. To put my finer details like snowflakes and stuff in, I like to use a liner brush. And here's 3 liner brushes that would work for the ones that we're using. We could have a simple one. Anything with a point on the end is going to work for us. So any brush that has a little point on the end is perfect. And then I have this tiny, tiny, tiny wee little detail brush that I'm going to use to make some fun little holiday lights with. Now, I could use one of these brushes as well, but I find that using this guy is actually pretty awesome when it comes to making my little lights. So that is part of our simple supply list. And then we are also going to use, I have this big sheet of watercolor paper. So watercolor paper holds the water really well. It's a little textured, and I can cut this into 3 sections and fold them up. Now, I'm telling you, a lot of different surfaces will work for this. So you can cut these into thirds, fold them, and use them for cards themselves. What I did for my regular cards, I cut them into squares, and I'm going to find something to glue these onto or just write on the back, something really fun. So these could be put into a frame. They could just be like kind of like a postcard note on the back. Anything that has a harder texture. So Bristol board, watercolor paper, brown craft paper, or something with a little bit more cardstock texture is going to be the best thing to use for this project. You can absolutely use a mixed media paper as well, and that would be really easy to glue onto a harder surface. Now, let's get this party started, and we're going to start with our green cards today. So get those greens out, and I'll meet you in a second. Okay, so I did forget to mention one thing in my previous video, and so a tool that really helps me out in the process is this fancy little mini hair dryer. Now we're going to be laying on lots of water and lots of texture into our green space, and actually for all of our cards they're going to have a little bit of time to dry. They're going to need a little bit of time to dry. So having a little hair dryer on hand really helps that process. Is it necessary? No. It's not necessary. You can absolutely make this without a hair dryer. And obviously, to use watercolor paints, we need water. I have my red Solo cup of water there, and I always have a napkin to wipe my brush on. So first things first, because I want to do both cards at the same time, I'm going to start with the card that has the most paint on it. While that dries, I can move over to my second card and kind of go back and forth with these two. So what I'm going to do is just have a blast, start getting my watercolor brush all full of water and a whole bunch of green paint, and I'm just going to really load it up. And I like to use several different colors of green because it just adds extra dimension and extra color and extra pizzazz into my color, or into the background of my card. So I love using all sorts of different colors of green. Now, you know, what I also like to do is I like to use a lot of water, but I like to layer as well. So I take a good amount of paint, I get it on there, I take a little water, and I start to move it around. Now, the fun part about this card is that we're going to use so much water that we can actually tip our cards, I should say, and let them run down a little bit and give them a really melty style texture. So we can go up and down and side to side and really let those colors kind of come together. And you know what? If you only have one green, That's okay. You can absolutely use another color with it too. So if you wanted to add some blue in there, you could do that. You could also grab a little bit of yellow and add that in there too, and it would work really, really well together. Just to get those little bit of extra colors in there to make your card looking super fun and dynamic and all that good stuff. So it's up to you how far you want to go, and if you want an edge on your card or if you just want it to be right in the center. But really just let your brush fly, wiggle it around. You got to wiggle it just a little bit. I want to see you wiggle it. And once that area is nice and full and feeling good, I'm going to let it be and leave it dry. Actually, you know what I like to do? I will also set up an extra paper towel and just lean it against my red Solo cup so that it kind of drips down. And if it starts to drip right away, I can move it in all the different directions to give it that really cool, melty watercolor texture that I'm looking for. All right, so fill that card up. We're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna work on these really fun little holiday trees. So, same brush, and I also use a couple different colors for my trees, a couple different greens, I should say. And we're gonna make 4 different trees in 4 different styles. Now, as I said before, you can use other colors than green as well. So if you only have green, blue, and yellow, those colors are awesome to mix in with the trees. And I don't judge. Maybe you want to do an amazing purple tree, or maybe you want to make some all different color trees. I am so for that. You can use these exact same techniques using different colors 100%, okay? I don't like to stunt the creativity that your brain is a brewing. So if you want to make a psychedelic purple and orange tree, you go for it. So I'm going to take my brush, and first off, I'm going to start with the first tree here, and it's really, really simple. I'm going to grab my first green, which I'm just choosing any green. I have no preference. And I start right at the top with a little tiny point. Boop. And I just start to really gently wiggle my brush back and forth in a zigzag motion. And I like to leave little spaces in between my branches. And as I start to move down my tree, I'm going to go ahead and grab another green and just have fun mixing those two together and then making a fun, different color on the bottom. I could even go ahead and add another green if I have it, just to change it up a bit. And when it dries, it's going to look so cool and so dynamic. And I just wiggle it out until I don't want to go too far because we have to put another tree underneath. So we'll keep it chill. If I want it to go a little bigger, I can pull it up, wiggle out the top a little bit. You can always make your trees a little bigger. It's just a little harder to make them smaller. So I love to start small and work my way out. And then if it needs to be a little bit bigger, I can always make it a little bigger. So check out what happens when we add all those little different colors into our tree. You see, it's got that nice deep green in there. It's got that nice pine green in there. Fancy it up a little bit and bring those colors together. It really makes a cool image. All right. Now for the next tree, I'm going to start at the top the same as I did before, only instead of wiggling my brush back and forth, I'm going to pull it out into little swoops on the side. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to swoop out one way, really, really little, and then swoop out the other way. And then I'm going to swoop it out the other way. And then as they start to grow, I like to just keep filling in that space with all sorts of little brush strokes that come out and pull off the page. And then as I start to move my way down, I can start to grab another style green. And I'm just petting the colors out. If they don't end up with a little point on the end, no big deal. It's so easy to just go right over top and go just with the tip of my brush. I'm going to grab a different green and finish it off with some nice, fun, different colors. So the key to this tree is really letting the brush strokes just make their way down. And I still have a couple little spots in the process where there's a little bit of my paper poking through, so I'm not filling in every single crevice with paint. It's nice to see a few little of those white watercolor paper markings kind of soaking through the background of my tree. Tree number 2 is done. This is really easy, right? So easy, guys. Okay, let's go for tree number 3. So for tree number 3, again, I'm going to take some green. I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just going to start with one little line. One little line. And then, like, instead of going back and forth like this one, I'm going to make little series of squiggles going up and down instead. So I'm going to go up and down. And then as I get a little further down my tree, my lines are just going to get a little bigger. And just like before, I'm just going to grab little different colors at a time, leaving a space in between each layer, wiggling my brush up and down until I reach the end of my tree. Really squiggle it. Do you think I could fit one more? I think so. I'm going to put one more down here. I'm going to really push the edge. But tree number 3. Diddly diddly dee. Now, at any time, if you feel like your paintings or your line work doesn't feel dynamic enough, I can always go back in. I can grab a darker green and squiggle in a few little darker marks into certain areas of my painting here. I can make some a little taller and some a little shorter, and just to make it a little bit more like up and downy and fun and wiggly. You can always go back in and add extra colors. Even if I wanted to add extra color into this tree here, I could go back in and squiggle some more green in there just for those extra textures and extra dynamic. Okay, tree number 3 is on. So let's go to tree number 4. Now, tree number 4 is similar to tree number 3, only instead of going in up and down strokes, we're going to go in diagonal strokes. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm just going to make a couple little wiggles going diagonally from right to left, and then I'm going to switch directions. And then I'm going to go, this needs a little point at the top, hold on. And then I'm going to start to go back and forth this way. And then I'm going to change directions again, and I'm going to start to go back and forth this way. So every time there's a new layer, I'm changing the direction of my brush, and I'm using the same style wiggle, but it's just going in the opposite direction of the bow on top of it. Okay? And if you want, they can get a little bit bigger as you move down. I'm going to try and fit in one more here. There we go. Had to go a little small at the bottom, but it still works. And then, like I said, I love to go back in and maybe change up some of the colors inside. So if I want a little bit more of a lime green in some of my spots, I can add little bits of lime green or little bits of the darker green. Whatever you want. And then we have 4 distinct different trees on our card that make it look super fun. And it's all coming together. So we can let this dry right now, but if you want, we can grab just a smaller brush. So maybe grab one of your liner brushes. Yeah, I'm gonna grab my little detail brush, but also something with a nice little point on it will work as well. And each one of my trees is going to have a little different colored star. So I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow for the first one. And you know, it doesn't have to be an exact star shape. It can just be kind of like a starburst. I'm going to grab a little orange for the next one. I just got to remember to put some water in there so it works. What's watercolors without water, right? And then I'm going to grab a little bit of pink. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of purple. So now I have this really fun set of trees on my holiday card, and it's homemade, and whoever you give this to is going to absolutely love it. Yay! How's this card coming along? Let's see here. Okay, all right, she's pretty good. She's pretty good. Now, I have to say, my first layer of colors here, I'm not overly stoked on. I feel like I could make it a little bit darker and maybe, yeah, just give it a little more depth of color before I add my drawing on top. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab a little bit of green and just do a kind of like a cruise over the paints that are already on there. You don't have to overthink it or anything. I'm just going to kind of wiggle a little extra water and green on top. Just add a few extra layers in there. And this is a good opportunity to layer those colors again. We really want a nice base so that we can paint a nice white tree on top. All right, fun. Now, like I said, my trusty hair dryer really helps. So I'm going to hold down my other papers here. Now, trust me, if you don't have a hairdryer, it's no big deal. The hairdryer makes it go a lot faster, but it still dries super fast. This dried in the same amount of time that I made my other card, which was what, like maybe 5 minutes. So you're not going to have to wait very long if you don't have a hairdryer. It's all good. Okay, friend? So I'm going to grab a paper plate and my white paint, and I'm just going to add a little dabble of white acrylic paint onto my palette. Now, this is going to be really easy. I'm going to grab, just grab whatever liner brush you have. Okay, so something with a tip on it. I'm going to grab a little water on my brush and grab some of my white paint. Now, the reason I add a little water onto my brush and into my paint like this is because it just allows my brush to move so much smoother along my paper. If I didn't add it, it would just be a little less easy, and I like things to be easy. So that's why I add this water in there. So I'm just getting my brush nice and full, right? And I'm going to start at the top, just like all of these other trees, and I'm going to wiggle my brush. That's what I said. I'm going to wiggle it just a little bit. So at the top, I'm just going to start to make a nice wiggly line. And every time I make a new little wiggle, it gets a little wider and wider all the way down. Now, I like it when my paint starts to separate a little bit. If your brush kind of makes some loose lines that you don't think should be there, that looks good. So make sure you pull out extra little bits of color into it because we want this to look really wispy and fun. We want it to look like somebody just scribbled it on there instead of going as slow as I am right now. So you might even go slower than me. That's okay. There is no right or wrong pace when you are creating anything. Everybody has their own pace. So, but we want to have fun with it. So we want to make sure that nothing looks perfect. I don't want this to look perfect. I want it to look just okay. And you know, on that last line that I want to make, I'm just going to kind of pull up, give it a little wiggle at the bottom and out. Have a little fun with it. You can add a few little extra squirts of paint in there. And there we go. We have a really fun little Christmas tree. But let's be honest, this Christmas tree is boring. It's boring and it needs some splatter. So take whatever brush you have that's going to splatter nicely, add that extra water in with your paint, and just go for it, okay? Just give it a couple little drops all around. You could use a toothbrush for this. You could use a brush to fling it on. Just be careful because sometimes there's backlash. And then you have some sweet, sweet splattery snow on your Christmas tree card. And it's awesome. And you know, it's totally fine just like that. Everybody's going to get the gist. Now, there are a couple things that you can do to make it a little bit more Christmassy, like taking your ballpoint pen and writing, I say Christmassy, but I just mean anything to do with the holidays. You could write Happy Holidays down at the bottom. You could go ahead and give it a fun little star on top. Let's do a Happy Holidays. Ta-da! They're never going to know that you're the one who made it. You're going to have to say, hey, I made this for you. And then they're going to be like, oh my goodness, you made that? And you're like, yeah. And it was super easy. And it's the same for this one too. So the best part about this is that you can write anything you want on your card. You can write a Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Merry and Bright, Home for the Holidays, Joy to the World. There are a million sayings out there that you could put on this card. And the best part about using a fun ballpoint pen is that you can really just have fun with the letters. You don't have to have this perfect writing. It can be really rustic, happy, and I like to make a little wiggly line. Happy holidays. holidays. Happy holidays to you. There we go. Now let those dry and send them out or give them away to any friends and family members that you want. Thanks for hanging out with me for our simple watercolor card paint session number 1. And stay tuned. Make sure you start the next video where we're going to stick with our blues and make some more fun holiday cards. Bye!